Oops. Morning, everyone. Welcome to another morning musings over at Coturnix Corner. Appreciate everybody joining us. We are outside today, so if we do any screw ups like talking during the presentation or the opener because we didn't have the mics muted, I apologize, but that's just the way it goes. Joining me today, he drove all the way down here from Michigan, Morry Straubel, just to do this live stream, which
I flew.
He flew down here and he's on vacation. So we decided we were going to go live outside from the Aviary. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Morry's got an aviary set up at his place in Michigan. And obviously, you know, I've got my setup down here. So we're going to talk today about basically building your aviary, how to furnish it, different types of waters and feeders and whatnot that you can use. We put together a little slideshow that we'll be showing here shortly. But before I get too far into it, let me give a big shout out to our sponsors, HP Murray over at Gopher Ridge Quail. He donates some hatching eggs to give away every week on the live stream, so we appreciate that, HP. And Hatching Time donates a $50 Hatching Time gift certificate that we also give away on the live stream. And if somebody could let me know real quick, how is our audio on this? We're actually using a microphone that I normally use indoors, but it's kind of far away. So if you could let me know how the audio is, I would appreciate it. Also, we've got an announcement from HP that he is going to, or that he sent to me last night. Audio says is good. Thanks, Dragon Girl. Appreciate that. HP made an announcement. He sent it over to me last night. He's got, he's calling it the Coturnix Corner Special. And I'm going to bring it up now, but I'm also going to bring it up again later on in the show for those of us who haven't joined us yet. Let me see if I can find the file real quick. It's kind of hard when you're not really prepared. Let's see, HP sale. There we go. Okay, this is it right here. HP is giving away 35 variety boxes of 27 count hatching eggs, and they're only $15.50 a box. And it is limited to 2 per person. You can check out his website, gopherridgequail.com, and yeah, get hooked up with some a variety box of hatching eggs for a really decent price. So Again, I'll be showing this later on in the show, just for those of you who aren't with us right now. But basically, like I said, we want to talk about aviaries, some of the benefits, some of the pros, and some of the cons of keeping birds in aviaries. Since I moved my birds from the shop out here into the aviary, I haven't been happier with the birds. I mean, Morry will tell you the birds look really, really nice.
Real healthy.
Yeah,
real healthy.
Compared to, cage birds, they just, to me, it's well worth the extra hassle, if you want to call it a hassle, of keeping them in an aviary. I don't really seem to think it's a hassle as much as a pain in the butt collecting eggs, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Let me go ahead and bring up our slideshow. Wait a minute. It seems like I'm forgetting something. Oh, yeah. We are going to be announcing the winner of the Coturnix Kids program for May on our next week Sunday morning musing show. I still have to contact the parents and get their shipping information, and I don't like to announce it until then. So it will be next week that we'll be announcing it. And I want to give a big shout out to our judges over on the CoturnixCorner.com website. Andy Rabbit is a judge. There's 3 others, I believe, and for the life of me, I can't think of all their names right now. I just saw Andy in here, and I knew Andy was a judge. But anyhow, big shout out to the judges. They help me out a lot by selecting a winner each month, and it just helps things go a lot smoother over there. So much appreciated. All right, let me go ahead and bring up the slideshow that we put together. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. This is my aviary. It's I believe it's an 8x10 or a 10x12. I can't remember the exact dimensions on it, but I built this probably about 3 years ago, and where it's sitting in the image, it's no longer there. That is actually my bee yard now, where I keep all my beehives. But when Hurricane Ian came through, it actually lifted the aviary up off the blocks, the foundation, and kind of blew it over by the privacy fence. So we moved it from over there over to where it currently is behind us, and now my bee yard's over there. So but you can see it's basic 2x4 construction. The door, I believe, is 2x2. Yeah, 2x2 construction. And when I assembled it, we assembled it to last. I mean, me and my wife built it, and I used pressure treated wood on all the 2x4s, and then I think on the 2x2s for the door, it wasn't pressure treated, but it gets a new coat of paint every year. So, and then we put the, what do you call this stuff? Lattice.
Yeah. We
put the lattice around the outside to kind of keep people from looking in or seeing what's in there, and it helps provide a little bit of shade, for the birds inside. This is Morry's aviary. Morry, go ahead and tell them a little bit about yours.
Mine's 10x12. That ramp isn't nothing. It's got a metal roof just because we get snow up there. It's got a floor in it that's about 10 inches off the ground that I filled up with like mulch, wood chips, whatever and whatnot. It's got a little hutch in there. I got a swimming pool full of sand. That's pretty much where they lay the eggs most of the time. And the birds are just so much happier outside. And if you do it, I don't know if Terry's got a picture of the inside of mine.
I do. It's coming up here shortly.
But I got a lot of branches and pine in there. And you can get them. Some of them will go broody. And you can hatch them out. It's actually kind of cool to do it.
Yeah, I've got a couple broody hens right now that they go around and they actually collect the eggs from the other hens that lay them wherever. And I don't know how they do it. Morry says they can actually cup them under their arm to move them.
Their wing.
Or under their wing. Their arm. Quail arms. But I've seen one of my hens, she goes out and she drags them with her beak from out in the middle of the aviary, drags them over to her little nest that she built. So that's kind of cool to watch. But she's probably get pissed off at me because I steal them from her every day. Okay, this is the construction phase of my aviary. This was done probably 3 years ago or so. We're actually hanging wire right now, but you'll notice on the aviary, got 2x4 roof joists, or what do you call them, roof trusses. And then I 45'd in all the corners. I 45'd a short piece of 2x4 just to give it some strength. And you can see it right there. The aviary is sitting on a concrete slab. I'm going to talk about it a little bit in a minute here about the substrate that we put down in the aviary, but it's actually on concrete blocks. This is just another picture of me stapling the wire onto the aviary. There's your buddy, all clean exteriors.
Oh, Zach.
Yeah,
What's up, Zach? I see his dad's in there too, Kurt.
Okay. Yeah, there's Kurt. Yeah, there's just installing some of the corner braces. Believe me, guys, you want to use 45s and bracing in the corners. It's going to make the whole structure a lot more sound,
especially in the north for the weight of the snow and
exactly
wet snow.
Yep. And a couple times I'll show you here in a minute, but I have to go up on top of my aviary every now and then when I'm putting a new tarp on there. I use a tarp because it's relatively inexpensive. It's like $10 to replace the roof, and I do that maybe twice a year. So just depends on how much wind we get and if it tears it up. These are the brackets. These are little steel brackets that I purchased over at Home Depot. I put those all in the corners, and that really helps strengthen things up. I believe they're nailed in. I don't think I screwed them. I think I nailed them in, but that will really stiffen up, all your corners. The 45 pieces work well, but these steel pieces I think work even better. Okay, and this is my roof. Now, if you look, I've got not only the tarp, but I've got chicken wire underneath it. So the whole thing's enclosed. There's no way that predators can get in the aviary. And being on concrete, they really can't dig under it. So, but like I said, that tarp, it's gray on one side and brown on the other. So I put the gray side up to kind of help reflect that sun a little bit. And yeah, I just stretch it out and I screw it all around the outside edges. There's little grommets on the tarp, and I screw it down. And unless we get hurricane force winds, it doesn't go anywhere. Morry, why don't you tell them a little bit about what you've got for a roof and why? And
I got trusses on mine. I also got hardware cloth across the top, and then I put purlins down, and then put my metal roof down. It gives them a lot of shade, plus keeps the weather off them.
That the roof doesn't get hot from the sun baking?
No, because I used a color that doesn't attract heat or doesn't hold, like I got green on mine instead of black or whatever.
Right. Cool. I think this is where I'm hanging the door. It's basically, you can see it's a 2x2 wood frame door. Also at the bottom, you can see I put one of them 45s in there. Just kind of helps square things up. And the door was covered with hardware cloth, both top and bottom. And I did not put the lattice on the door. I just left it open so I could kind of look in there and see what the birds are doing from outside. This is actually when the aviary was over in the bee yard, but you'll notice underneath the four corners of the aviary, there's a concrete block. What I did was I wanted to go to a deep litter method, just to make it easier on me and, for cleaning the aviary out, and easier on the birds. I used to have, when it was sitting on the concrete slab, I could only put like 1.5 inches of wood shavings down, or wood chips. And I was constantly having to clean it, especially during the rainy season. When we get rain every day, those wood chips would get wet, and you had to keep them dry, or you'd have problems with the birds. So what I did was I took concrete blocks and I lifted the aviary on all four corners, and then I went and fit the concrete blocks in all the way around the perimeter, and actually stuccoed them in. I think I got a picture of that. You can look at that. There's no seams or anything on the block. I actually stuccoed it in and filled the cells of the block with concrete. And I actually have to do that to where the aviary is at now. But we'll get on it. On yours, you said you got a wood floor in yours?
Yeah. Yep. I built it just like you'd build a deck.
Okay.
So it's off the ground.
And what do you use for
Mulch.
how thick would you say it is?
It's a thick of a 2x6, so what, 5 inches,
Oh, okay.
5.5 inches.
And you don't have problems with wood getting rotted out, or?
Nope, not yet. I did all green wood.
Oh, okay.
Treated.
Yeah. But yeah, like you can see that, it's up on blocks. It's going to keep the water out. If there is any water sitting, it's not going to be able to flow into it. On the backside, I had a couple spots where the drainage of the concrete slab kind of leaned to one corner. So I left a little bit of a gap, not much of a gap, maybe a half an inch between the block. And that way, any water that did blow in the aviary from our summer storms could actually get drained out.
Yeah, it's like mine. With the deck boards, I put a gap in between them so the water would go through there.
Yep. All right, and here I am. I'm down at we got a park just around the corner that gives out free mulch. So I went there and I fill the back of my truck up. About every 6 months, I'll swap the mulch out, and I'll go to the park and fill the back of my truck up and bring it home and wheelbarrow it over to the aviary. The stuff that I pull out of the aviary goes into a compost pile, and I finish composting that, and it goes into my garden, which my garden's grown over with grass right now. So, but yeah, it's nice to have a source of free mulch like that.
Yeah, we got that too.
Oh,
where I live. Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is the inside of Morry's. Go ahead and tell them about that, Morry.
I just went and grabbed some pine trees and logs and built like a little hiding spot. That's actually where they pretty much hid all the time. And laid a lot of eggs in there also. And that's where the hen was going broody, is underneath that pine tree right there.
Right.
So I never let her hatch them. I always took the eggs. But I think this year I'm going to try to do it because I got some Bob Whites that I'm going to put in there and see if they'll go broody on them. Okay, let's see. I see HP's in the house. Glad you could join us, HP. If anybody has any questions while HP's in here about his Coturnix Corner sale, HP is in the chat room, so you can reach out to him if you have any questions on that. Like I say, we will be showing his flyer again, every so often in the show today. What is this? That's yours, blocks. Yeah, I don't know why I put that photo in there. Maybe so you can just see that the floor of the aviary, or the bottom wall of the aviary is sitting up on top of the block. I don't know why I would put that photo in there. Or maybe I'm just showing the mulch. Yeah, that's just the mulch after it's been spread out through the aviary. The first time I put the mulch in there, that's what it was. I only brought the mulch up halfway up the block and let the birds, live on that for like 3 months. And then I got fresh stuff and went over top of that with fresh stuff, which made it, I believe it was 8 inches deep. And that worked really well because, after 6 or 8 months of that mulch being in there, it would decompose really nice. And I had some really nice black compost that would go into the garden. This is the shot of my feeder. When I first put that feeder in, I thought, well, it'll be temporary. I got to, come up with something that's a little bit easier to fill, and, I'm not going to have any feed waste. But believe it or not, that's probably the best feeder I've ever used out in the aviary. As a matter of fact, I'm still using it now behind me. The birds do not waste any feed in that. It holds enough feed to get them through, 2 or 3 days. I stuck with it. They're pretty cheap. I think they're under $10 over at Tractor Supply. Morry, what are you using for feeders? I got some bigger J boxes that hold 5 pounds or something that. Yeah. And then I just took the hatching time, the red grates that go over top, and then 3D printed my own, and then set it in there, because otherwise they're going to shake their head and you're going to lose so much food.
Yeah. No, I was surprised at this. When I first put this in, I bought that one when the aviary was over in the bee yard, and it worked so well. When I moved it, I went out. That one was kind of getting old, but I went out and got another one, and I love it. I mean, it holds enough feed to get 20 birds through, I don't know, 2 or 3 days easy. And they, for some reason, they don't knock the food out. I think it's because of those little dividers in there.
Yeah, can't shake their heads.
Yeah, exactly. And then for water, this is what I used at first. It's just a 1 gallon water jug. I put it in that little feed house, I called it. I actually had the feed and water in there at one time, but I moved the feed out to the center. But I was using that. It's a 1 gallon water jug. It works pretty good. The birds are prone to kicking up dirt and whatnot and getting the water tray, you know, kind of dirty. So I actually, when the aviary was over in the bee yard, I actually went to a water nipple system, and this worked really well. I had a 5 gallon bucket mounted up on the center rail of the aviary and plumbed it down to a bunch of vertical nipples. I ended up having to pull the vertical nipples out because they had a tendency to leak, and I didn't want that wet spot underneath them. So I put horizontal nipples in eventually, and those worked really well. I like the horizontal nipples. But now I'm actually back to the same water jug because I don't have my water system plumbed since I moved the birds over. But yeah, no, it works good. And that with that 5 gallon bucket, I could go a good week, you know, without having to fill the water up. Here's another one that I think this is kind of like a furniture shot. That little hide box there was where a lot of my eggs were laid, inside there. And then you can see some branches. I did like Morry did. I went out and collected a bunch of branches and some rocks and stuff and piled them up so the birds would have, you know, a place to kind of hide and feel safe. But, you know, and I think that is one of the reasons the birds are doing so well now is they're not having any issues with getting tore up by males. The birds behind me, I think there's like 5 roosters in there and 15 hens, and the hens look great. They're not missing any feathers. Their backs look good. I just did I did a hatch a few weeks back, and then I got another hatch just went in lockdown, and I'm getting good fertility rates. So I think that having a lot of furniture in there to where, you know, if the hen is getting chased around by a couple of roosters, they've got a place to, you know, kind of hide or avoid the roosters. So that really well.
I've never did a ratio on my birds. I just put them all in there.
Right.
Never had any issues with dominance or anything with mine.
Yeah. I had some people on the last live stream or the one before was asking me about plants that you could use inside the aviary to kind of dress it up a little bit. And I didn't give them a really direct answer because, you know, one, I don't know that much about plants, and I don't know what's poisonous. You know, I don't want to recommend something and then find out that it's, you know, poisonous to the quail. But what I was using, this is when I first built the aviary. I went out and I bought some little palm bushes. They call them, what do they call those things again? Can't think of it off the top of my head. I will in a minute. But anyhow, it's a native plant that grows around here. I don't know if it's native, but they're all over down here. They get really big and they're really dense, you know, so the birds can hide in. And I just left them in the pots. I actually buried the pot down a little bit in the mulch. And once that plant grew out, you know, the birds were hiding under it all the time. It did really well. Do you have plants and stuff in yours?
I tried plants, but
they ate it.
They ate them all. There wasn't many. It just didn't work. I mean, it worked if you didn't mind spending $10-15 every once in a while for a new plant, but they just ate them.
That wall behind the plant that you're seeing there, or behind that bird, you can see there's actually a hibiscus bush out there, which I ended up putting in the ground. But I had morning glories planted along that whole wall, which they actually climbed up the wall. and provided shade from the morning sun. And until I found out that morning glories were poisonous to quail. But I think the problem, it wasn't eating the leaves as much as the seeds that were the issue. So
Well,
I got rid of the morning glories.
I had some tomato plants. I think they were tomato plants that were growing on my aviary. They didn't eat the plants, but they would eat the tomatoes.
Yeah.
They'd pick at the tomatoes.
Well, the tomatoes are fine for them, but the plant, they're in the nightshade family. It's actually poisonous.
Yep.
So I
They
think the
never
birds
ate
are
'em,
smart
though.
enough to know what they can and can't eat. So I don't know. All right. Let's see where we at here. Oh, this little brooder pen you're seeing right there, me and Morry actually slapped that together yesterday. The brooder that I had my chickens inside the house was getting a little crowded. I had 10 birds in one of those little plastic tubs. So we built this brooder, and I was going to originally keep it inside. And I thought, you know what, it's warm enough outside. I'll just go ahead and stick the brooder inside the aviary. And, that way they're protected from the weather. And my aviary is predator proof, so I don't have to worry about that. And, nighttime temperatures are warm enough. The birds are starting to feather out now, so they're doing good. Last night was their first night in there. They didn't use the roost by.
That's probably too high.
Yeah, it'll take them a while to grow into it. But, it did really well. I put the brooder in there. The quail, I guess if they wanted to fly up and get in there, they could, but they don't seem to be too interested in them. And I thought they were baby ducks. No, thanks. I don't do ducks.
No, they're way too messy. I don't either. I did ducks, and then after they got full grown, they went into the freezer. they're just dirty.
Right. This is just a shot from looking down into the little brooder. Those are our Brahma chicks, by the way. They're growing quick. I was surprised that they grew that fast. I was surprised when they hatched out that they were that big. But that's the little hide box that I built. That was in the old aviary, or not the old aviary, but the aviary when it was over by the bee yard. And a lot of birds would lay eggs in that. So I think if a lot of people say that in an aviary setting, you're stepping on eggs and this and that. I kind of found that the birds will choose a spot and pretty much lay in there. Every once in a while, I'll find an egg out in the middle of the floor, but for the most part, they lay in the either in the hides, or yours is what, like a sandbox or a pool or something?
A kid's pool filled with sand.
Yeah, and I've even heard Chris Carnes say that on his cages, he's got one half of it is a sand box for them to sandbathe in, and he said almost all the time they'll lay them in that sand. So if you're going to build an aviary, I would definitely put something in there, either like Morry did with the pool. You cut out a little notch or something for them to get in.
Cut it out so they can just walk right in.
Yeah, and then put some sand in there, and that'll make collecting eggs easier. And you got a spot for the birds to sandbathe in. Let's see what else we got here. This is the shot of the hibiscus. I kind of wanted to, when I first built the aviary, I wanted to kind of decorate it a little bit so it looked nicer in my backyard. So I had hibiscus plants going all around the outside, and then the little bit of plants that I had on the indoors. But I can tell you that putting that lattice around the outside of the aviary, I think really helped. As far as not only looks, making it look more presentable, but it kind of blocks a little bit of the sun, and it keeps your neighbors. You really can't stand back and look through the lattice and see the birds. So, if you're worried about neighbors, complaining that you've got birds outside. Now they do crow. I mean, my rooster, you heard them, just now, they're crowing like crazy out here. So, but they calm down during the day. That's another plant that I had on the other side. That's just Scheffalera, I think it was what they call them. And okay, I think that's the end of our thing. I do want to show you, I've got a real quick video that I took. This is just showing basically, how the birds are using the plants and some of the hide spaces inside the aviary. I don't have any live plants in my aviary now. It's just pretty much I got some rocks in there. I got some small logs laying on top of the rocks. I think they're a little house. Oh, I built a little house in there. I put 2 cinder blocks about 16 or 18 inches apart and put a board over top of it, just so if winter rain is blowing in there, they can get out of the weather. Also, they can hide. So, all right, we're going to go ahead, guys, and jump over into the chat room and see who all is here. And real quick, though, I want to bring up the Coturnix Corner sale over at Gopher Ridge Quail. HP is offering 35 boxes, only 35. So if you're interested, get over to that website and get them ordered. It's a 27 count of variety. 27 count of variety mixed hatching eggs for $15.50 plus your shipping. And he does have a limit of 2 boxes per person. So you can get a heck of a deal on some quail right now, or some hatching eggs. All right, where are we here? I think I covered everything this morning. I'm going to have to, I don't know if I can, I really can't read that. The sun's blocking me. I think I'm going to do it on that one. Well, it is, but I can't put the thing on the screen on that one. I'm using my thing again. There we go. I'm not going to read all the comments. If you guys have any questions, type the letter Q in front of your questions, and we'll get to it. I do see some questions here down towards the bottom. Boy, that was a bad idea, bringing the laptop out in the sun. I wonder if I can brighten up my screen some. Oh, nice. That kind of helps. Let's see. Where are we here? Andy Rabbit's in the house, says good morning. Chantel's in the house. Chantel, I did get your email. I hope everything is working out for you. Sounds like you got everything straightened out, but we'll go ahead and read them all real quick. We're in no hurry today. Andy Rabbit's in the house, says good morning. Chantel said good morning. Hannah Bishop's in the house, says good morning. Holly Griffiths says morning from Gaylord, Michigan, where the snow is finally gone.
Yeah.
It was 70 when you left, wasn't it?
83.
83 degrees. That's Florida weather. Florida winter weather. Nadia's in the house, says good morning. Glad you could join us, Nadia. Chantel says, yay, I'm in I can't even pronounce that one. Something Chappie, California. It's been warm, then cold every other weekend for the last 2 months. Ready for spring to hold on. Yep. Morry Straubel's in the house. This morning, everyone. We're almost ready. Dragon Girl's in the house, says good morning. Muddy Acres Homestead says good morning from New York. Juan says a bunch of Spanish that I don't understand. Something about an incubator and 120 eggs. Those are the only words that are the only ones I can pick out. Sorry about that, Juan. I don't speak Spanish very well. Viking Chick says good morning. Don Skins in the house says good morning from South Mississippi. Missed your session on bees. We always leave patches of wild clover in the yard to attract bees. Yeah, that's a good thing. I was actually planting stuff my first year I got into bees. I planted, some bee-friendly plants here in the yard. And I noticed that my bees were kind of ignoring them up until the sunflowers bloomed. Once the sunflowers bloomed, I had bees, but I don't know if they came from my bees or not. But it is a good idea. And I've had people tell me that, planting them local doesn't really help your own bees, but it does help feral colonies that are out, or if somebody else has bees further away, they will come in and feed on your plants. But yeah, Don, that was a great live stream. If you get a chance, watch the replay. It went a little bit long. It's almost 2 hours, but we had a good time. Brian had a ton of information that he shared with us, and Bruce from Bruce's Bees. He's a sideline beekeeper. He's got, a couple hundred hives or better. And he surprised us and showed up in the show probably the last 30 minutes or so, but it was really nice to see him in there. And both guys talked to me after the show and said that, they're willing anytime to come back on and talk bees. So if you guys let me know, if that's something you'd like to see again, we'd be happy to do it. I love talking bees, and I know them guys love talking bees. So, and I've got the feelers out right now for a few other beekeepers. One's up in Michigan by Morry. She just turned into a sideliner beekeeper again this year. She's actually sending a couple hundred hives out to California for pollination. So that'd be an interesting thing to, talk about is, the whole commercial side of it. Elf Lem says, 3 weeks after my first hatch, I had to euthanize one that was severely stunted and suffering. I'm an old country boy, but I allowed myself to become too attached. Is this normal? Yeah, it can happen. I look at my quail as basically farm animals. I mean, I have them to feed me or the family. I don't keep anything as pets. If there's any kind of an issue with them, I'll put them down. Even when chicks hatch out, if I have chicks that, have splay leg or, clenched fist, or any kind of wry neck, whatever, I put them down immediately. I don't try to save them. I know a lot of people do, but Morry, how do you handle birds that are messed up?
It all depends on the mood I'm in, really. I'll do the curl foot or toe, whatever you call it. That
Put the little shoe on them.
I just make get the masking tape, the white stuff, put it on their foot, and then that way you can see their feet, and then you can trim around it so it just fits their feet perfectly. Right. And then wry neck, no, because that doesn't. You can do what you want, but it's a waste of time. It's not going to really do much. And then spray leg, I've never dealt with that yet.
Well, as long as you keep something when they hatch out, they got something they can grip.
I use that cabinet liner, that rubber stuff.
Yep. Oh, I forgot. Morry's doing a giveaway today. Morry, tell them what we got for him.
I'm going to give away 2 West Michigan Quail Cups. I don't know if you can see them. So if you want those, I don't know really what you got to do. I think you got to do hashtag.
Yeah, we're going to set that up. I'm going to wait a little bit until right before we do the giveaways on the hashtag, because it seems to me that the ones that put your hashtags in too early, they don't get counted in the queue. I'm not 100% sure. I don't use it that often. Brian from the last show told me that he said it doesn't matter when you put the hashtag in, but only put it in once, because it's only going to do your thing once, so it doesn't matter how many times you put your thing in there. But we are going to be giving away 2 of the West Michigan Quail Cups. HP Murray is donating a 30 count of mixed hatching eggs like we do every week, and then the Hatching Time gift certificate. So we'll get to that here shortly. Let's go ahead and see if we got some more questions over in the chat room. Holly Griffith says Detroit Lions. So cool.
Yeah.
Where's Detroit? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they did really good the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I'm not a big football fan, but I actually watched Detroit last year and this year just because Morry and my sister are big fans. So, Muddy Acres Homestead says, "Did you make him wear that lion shirt?" Nope. Maureen says, "Good morning from Canada. I'm new to quail. Glad you could join us, Maureen. You just joined probably the most addictive hobby you could get into."
It's worse than chicken math.
It is. Andy Rabbit says, "Hello, thanks for going down just to do the live." Yes, that's for you.
You're welcome.
And he didn't come down here just for the live.
No, obviously we're family, so we came down for 10 days and we brought the son with us. Yep. Actually, he paid for himself, but he rode with us and just down visiting, get out of the Michigan weather for a while.
Yep. After a week of this, we're ready to go home.
Right.
We got 90 degree plus days for the next 10 days. So let's see. We got a bunch of people saying the audio is good. Holly Griffiths says, thank you to HP. Absolutely. Marine says, good morning from Canada. New to Quail, working on the aviary now. Cool. Yeah, I think you're going to enjoy the aviary setup. I mean, I had both back a few years ago. I had like anywhere between 300 and 500 birds inside. And then I had, a small setup for the aviary outside. And aviary is just so much more enjoyable. I mean, I'd get up in the morning, come out with my coffee and, sit and visit with the birds and whatnot. And then I'd have to go inside and, clean a bunch of cages. But we got away from the indoor stuff, mainly for health reasons. But Separate Cruz says, that's very generous, talking about HP's giveaway, or not giveaway, but HP's sale. Egg collection would be the hard part. Yeah, like we said, if you set up something, Andy, for them to, like Morry's got a sand bath and I've got the different hides, it seems like they want to lay in them most of the time.
In the same spot.
Yeah. Holly says, thought they pick up bad things from the dirt. Yeah, I heard that too. I had chickens before in my yard, and I was always worried, about, coccidia or bird flu and all this stuff. I've never had an issue with it.
Yeah, I haven't either. My chicken's free range too, or they used to, not no more, but because the dog likes to roll in the chicken.
Yep. But I've never had a problem with my quail. They've been outside for better than 3 years now, and I've never had an issue with them, picking up any kind of disease or whatever. And then another nice thing I like about the aviary setting is I've never had a foot problem with my quail. When I kept birds on wire inside the shop,
bumblefoot.
Yeah, I would get, they'd have some foot problems. Then I switched to the 1/2x1 coated wire. That seemed to take care of the most part of it, but every once in a while, something would pop up. But I have never had a problem out here with foot issues in the aviary. Kurtzen House says, good morning. Another Michigander. Okay, we got a question that says, can you do both aviary in the summer, then cage in the winter?
Yep, I've done that, and it works out actually pretty good.
Yeah, the nice thing about, you get them out in the aviary, that lets them, rebuild their feather growth and everything.
Yep. And then put them in usually what I do is I'll take the centers out of my hatching time cages so they have that bigger area. Mm-hmm. And then in the spring, I'll put them back outside. But this year I probably won't, because I got the bob whites that are going to go in the aviary, and the bob whites will kill the Coturnix. Eventually they will.
Right. All right, let's see. Fig Tree Farms in the house says, good morning from New Hampshire. I'm especially interested in learning more about the aviary living in our state with deep snowy winters. I think your quail will love it. And did you keep birds outside in the winter?
Yep. And you can put a pile of snow in there for their water, so you don't have to keep, going out and busting the ice out and stuff. Well, what I use is a heat plate, and then I got a metal drinking thing that sets it on there. If the temperature gets below, I think it's like 42 degrees, the heater turns on and keeps the water warm. But you can also put a pile of snow in there, and they'll eat the snow for their water.
Yeah, I know Allie from Maine's Confetti Quail Farm did that. She'd go out in the winter months, and it's so cold she could put water out there, and 5 minutes later it's frozen.
Yeah, and they'll play in the snow too.
Yeah. All right, all clean exteriors says good morning. Another Michigander. Viking Chick says thank you, HP. Emma Ball's in the house says, hey everyone, glad you could join us, Emma. No Life Beekeeper James says, hi, glad you could join us, James. I believe you were in the bee live stream last week. I think it was last week. X-Turtle X84 says, of course. And he's talking to Holly saying, I kind of do have a large cage. I put all my quail together in for the winter, then move them back into the breeding cages in the summer. So I think you could. Yeah.
It worked out fine. It works out fine for me.
HP says, "Good morning, all. I'm up, but not alarm,
Adam, yeah.
not Adam yet.
Need some coffee, HP.
Yep. Let's see.
Aaron's here.
Oh, Aaron's in the house. Says,
Morning,
good
Aaron.
morning. Costello Hobby Farm says, good morning from Alabama. Larry says, good morning, friend. This is my first time with you. Glad you could join us, Larry. I hope you are getting some good information out of the live stream. Big Tree Farm says, question, mulch is not free up here, but wood chips are. Are they okay for the quail along with other surfaces? That's what I've got my birds on right now is pine shavings.
They're fine.
Yep. And once you get them, like if you're using the deep litter method, over time, the bottom layer is going to start, composting and rotting out a little bit. And I mean, like I say, I've got mine on pine shavings.
Just don't use cedar. You don't want to use cedar wood chips or mulch.
Right. Costello Hobby Farm says, question, how do you keep records for your birds, like how old they are and anything else?
I use colored zip ties. It's how I do mine. And then I write it down on a piece of paper. Blue zip tie.
Certain month, whatever.
March of 2024 or whatever.
Yep.
And then you can look at it and know which one year that, or how old that bird is, roughly.
Right. To be honest with you, right now, I don't keep any records on mine. I know the birds that are here in the aviary now. I know when they were born. I know who I got them from, and how old they are. So, like right now with the aviary, I'm taking the laid back approach. I'm doing it mainly so I enjoy it, and no, it's working out great. Birds are laying every day. I've got eggs in the incubator right now. I've got good fertility rates. So, as a matter of fact, the birds that are behind me, I don't know if you can actually see any of them. They are Pharaoh and Egyptians, and they came from HP Morry. And they are, Morry will tell you, there's some big birds in there.
They're beautiful birds. I got some beautiful birds from Aaron, too.
Did
I
you?
got some really nice birds from him.
Andy says, how easy is it to clean out? Actually, pretty simple. Yeah. I take in this aviary with the pine shavings, I just bring a garbage can in there and a flat shovel, and I shovel everything into the garbage can. But when I had the deep litter method, I would back a wheelbarrow up to the door and pitchfork it into the wheelbarrow, and then it would go over into the compost pile and sit there until I needed it.
That's exactly what I do. I just got one of those red pitchforks that they're like plastic, a real sturdy plastic at Tractor Supply, and that's what I use. I just bring my garbage can there and put a big old heavy duty garbage bag in it, fill it up, and then a guy at work wants it all for his garden, so he just comes and picks it up when it's ready.
The biggest issue that I have with the aviary is during the summer months down here, we go into rainy season, and a lot of times the rain's blowing sideways, and it'll get a section of it wet in there. But usually what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll just turn that wet section in, and it's never presented any problems. It never molded up or anything. It actually helps the material compost a little bit quicker when it's wet. So, but that's my biggest problem. And I was worried about it at first, but it doesn't seem to be that big of an issue. My Shepherd Crew says, I love that feeder. Yeah, that little blue feeder.
Yeah, you can get them at Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply, that's where I get them. Dan says, good morning from Fremont, Wisconsin. Glad you could join us, Dan. Tim's in the house, says, good morning, everyone. Glad you could join us, Tim. Larry says, I want to build an aviary in the woods behind my house next to my Coturnix cages. What type of foundation do you recommend for protection? I mean, you can get by with dirt. I would just make sure that the wire from your walls go down below the ground level. You don't want anything digging under
at
it.
Least a foot. You get fox or raccoons or whatever, they'll dig right under it. And use hardware cloth. Don't use chicken wires, because raccoons are strong enough to rip that chicken wire apart.
Yeah.
And I know, because I've seen them.
Yeah. Or you could, if you wanted to make something more permanent, pour a concrete slab to put it on it, or do like Morry did. He's got basically a wood
deck
floor with a deck on it. Yeah.
And then for my chickens, I just buried lattice a foot in the ground, and that way it don't rot or nothing.
Right.
Freaking flies are bad out here.
Really? They don't bother me. You stink.
I probably do.
Aaron says, HPM at Cracker Barrel, eating breakfast now. Coffee's hot.
Lucky.
Yeah. HP, your eggs are still cooking in the incubator, and I'm excited about them. Thank you again. That's from Viking Chick. Cool. Good luck with the hatch. Viking Chick says, how do you feel a 5-gallon water works? Similar style to your 1-gallon water. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you had enough birds that could keep the water level down. Here's the only issue that I have with the 1-gallon waters is you need to wash them out every time you fill them up, because I get like a slime buildup in there, almost like an algae starting to grow. But what I do is I got a gallon jug of bleach in the laundry room. I'll grab that, put it on a rag, and just wipe it out real quick every time I go to fill it up, and that keeps the.
Or you can paint it black.
Or paint it black. There you go. Papa says, good morning, all. Morning, Papa. Glad you could join us. HP says, Aaron, if I remember right, it's a 4-cup trip. Y'all stay safe. Tim says, question, how do you deal with fly management in the summer months? What do you do for flies?
Fly tape.
They're on you.
I know, they're all over. Fly tape, and try to stay on top of the quail poop.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, keep it clean. That's what they're after, is that smell. I don't know why. I don't even see flies inside the aviary. They're just on Morry.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I basically do the same thing that Morry says. When the birds were indoors, it was the sticky fly strips. That worked out well. But the biggest thing was keeping the manure dry. I actually got to a point where I had fans on one end of my cages blowing across the manure trays to dry the manure out, and that seemed to help quite a bit. Yeah, flies were never really much of an issue for me.
In my aviary is where I have the issues, but not a lot of issues, because if you stay on top of it,
yeah,
you're fine.
Where am I at here? Papa says, just put my first eggs in the incubator, soon to have my first birds. Cool. Good luck on the hatch. Brian says, good morning from Sweet Home, Alabama. Chantel says, nice, Papa. Tell you what, we're going to stop right here for a minute. We're going to go ahead and give away a Hatching Time gift certificate, $50 gift certificate. If you guys are interested in that, comment hashtag Hatching Time, all one word, and make sure you spell it correctly, because if you don't, and I would put it all in lowercase too. I wouldn't put any caps. I don't know how well that picker selects them, but comment hashtag Hatching Time, all lowercase, and we'll do here in a minute. We'll do a drawing for that, and then we'll probably go ahead and do a drawing for one of the West Michigan Quail Cups. So yeah, we'll do that right now too. Go ahead and put hashtag Tumblr.
Yeah.
Hashtag Tumblr. TUMBLER.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't like doing multiple word things because I don't know if it selects it by all one word or spacing or what.
No idea.
Yeah, I don't either. All right, we'll take a couple questions while we're waiting on that. Fig Tree Farms says, questions. How many birds per square foot do you recommend? Do you find the male to female ratio to be the same as they would be in a cage?
No.
Yeah.
Aviaries are different. You just got to kind of think of it as being in the wild. I don't worry about ratio too much in the aviary. In the cages I do, it's 4 to 5 to 1 in my cages. In the aviary, I don't, because if I hatch a batch, I put the whole batch in the aviary and just let them live. And I've never had a problem. No fighting, no pecked eyes out, no bloody heads.
Right.
As
Yeah, and
long
I
as-
basically do the same thing. My aviary, like I say, right now I got like 20, 21 birds in there. There's at least 5 roosters and the rest are hens. And, you know, Morry will tell you, my hens look great. Nothing's tore up on them. No signs of aggression or anything. So the biggest thing is, what do you plan to do with your eggs from the aviary? Are you planning on, you know, incubating them or selling them as hatching eggs? If you're worried about fertility, then you might want to go to a higher rooster to hen ratio, but
you don't want to have 3 hens in there and 15 roosters.
right, the poor hens are going to get torn
Yeah,
up.
because they'll just kill them.
All right, one more and then we'll do the drawing. Andy Rabbit says, "Hello, I thought those were baby ducks." Okay, I already read that one. Marie says, "Morning, everyone." Exactly what you said. Ducks are dirty.
They're
Okay, we're going to go ahead and do the drawing for the hatching time. Let me see if I can remember how to do this. Share screen. The tool and share. All right, there's our giveaway. I got to choose a live stream. And then what did I say it was? Hashtag
hatching time.
ECHING. Looks like I spelled it right. All right, we're going to collect some comments. Let's see how many comments we get. So far, we got 22, 23. So that sounds about right. All right, we're going to draw the winner for the Hatching Time gift certificate. I like doing this better this way because
it's more fair.
It's fair, and I don't have to. Looks like Papa, you're the big winner of the Hatching Time gift certificate. I forgot to mention to send me your information. What's wrong with this?
You got that rubber thing on the end of the pen.
What do you do? Take it off?
We can't
I'll
leave
be
it on if
darned.
you're gonna write with it.
I guess not. Okay, we can stop sharing that screen and go back to our other screen. All right, cool. Okay, so Papa, what I need you to do is email me at Terry@Coturnix Corner, and I'm going to put that in the chat room right now. Boy, I can't see a thing out here. Anyhow, it's Terry@CoturnixCorner.com. Make sure I get, I need a good email from you. I really don't need an address from you. As long as I get a good email address, then we're good to go on that one for you. Anybody else for the other stuff, obviously, I'm going to need a... there's my email there, Terry. I spelled Coturnix wrong. It's not T-U-T, it's T-U-R-N-I-X. So Terry@CoturnixCorner.com. Should be able to spell that one. All right, let's go ahead and jump back up there. And if you guys want to Tumblr, hashtag Tumblr, go ahead and put that in. We'll take a couple more questions, then we'll do the drawing for the Tumblr. I forgot where I left off. It's going to be up there ways. Yeah, that's still up higher.
Right there.
Big Tree Farm, yep. Andy Rabbit says, LOL, I thought those were baby ducks. Okay, we did read that. Ducks are dirty. A&J Exotic says, oh, yeah, they are. Jacob says, good morning. A little late to the party. That's okay. Glad you could join us, Jacob. And he says, I've noticed that even in a rollout cage, the hens lay in the same spot every time. They also eat from the same spot also.
Yep, that's true. My eggs, or my hens, in my hatching time cages, the ones that got the centers out, they'll only lay on the one side.
Really?
Yeah, it'll only be on the one side of the rollout.
I'll be darned. Holly says, do they try to escape when you open the aviary door? No, actually, they kind of back up for me and, get out of my way.
Bob White's will.
Do they?
Oh, yeah.
I've never had one. I've never had one intentionally get out, like waiting for the door to open and escape. I have accidentally left the door open and had one get out and have to run them down, but for the most part, no, they don't. Papa says, question for the group. I never heard of that. Celnova incubator. Any tips for managing humidity? Yeah, that one I can't help you with.
Other than a wet sponge.
Yeah,
I don't know what
it might not even be one where you can put a sponge in. Tim says, question, with the aviary setup, do the birds ever develop poop balls on their toes, or is it some preferred substrate that prevents this? I've never really noticed it on mine. Have you ever had birds?
No, I think the mulch and stuff knocks it off when they walk. I don't know. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've never had
paid attention, really.
I've had it in my cages, but I've never had it outside. So, yeah, I don't know. It could be, Tim, like Morry says, that, walking on the mulch keeps their feet a little bit cleaner. But like I say, I've never had issues in the aviary with feet, foot issues. Tam's in the house is cute. Butterfly Me Away says, morning. Glad you joined us. Butterfly there. Okay, William, I got your stuff, or your email. It just came in. Thank you very much. And for the people that I'm going to bring it up again. For the people who are interested in this sale that HP's got going on, he is shipping this week. So if you place your order today, you're going to have your eggs in the mail within a week. So, all right, one more question, and then we'll give away a cup. Skinner Outdoor says, what do you build for the birds in the winter in colder climates?
For outside, I just leave them where they're at and wrap them with painter's plastic. Wrap the cage with painter's plastics to keep the wind and stuff off them, and they do fine.
Cool. And it gets cold up in Michigan, I can tell you. AJ Exotic says Michigan here too. There's a lot of Michigan people in here today. All right, one more question, and we're going to jump over there. Golden State Quail says, good morning. I use a Solomon incubator. I do a dry hatch until day 14, then fill up the tray till I see water building up until they start hatching. It's been working great for me. There you go. Yeah, I've never heard of the Solomon incubator. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and give away a West Michigan Quail tumbler. Hopefully, Morry will start making these on his own now. Let me see here. I got to go over to present, share screen. All right. Go back from this page. Choose the live stream. Hashtag, what do we say? Tumblr, Tumbler. Spelled it right. And we got 26 entries for the tumbler. Who is the lucky winner? Andy Rabbit. Check you out. Fly just flew in my ear. You believe that?
Better you than me.
All right, Andy, you know the routine. Email me your shipping information. Good address. You know what we need to do here. Stop sharing that. Go back to that screen. All right, so Andy Rabbit got the first tumbler. We'll go ahead and what do you want them to type in for the second one?
Quail. Hashtag Quail.
Hashtag Quail. And you can get another West Michigan Quail tumbler, and we'll draw that in a minute. So go ahead and get your hashtags in there. Let's see. Golden State Quail says my humidity sits at 70 with a full tray. That's good point. Marie says, question, with hurricane season approaching, do you take the quail from the aviary? If not, should I anchor the aviary? Yes and no. I normally don't take the birds out of the aviary unless it looks like we have a direct hit coming at us. Then I will, pull the birds out and bring them inside. As far as anchoring the aviary, I never had it anchored before. And I think what I'll do this time, instead of worrying about anchoring it, is I'll just take the tarp off the roof, because that's what happened. Was the wind got up underneath the tarp and it acted like a sail. It just lifted it off the blocks and set it up against my fence. So I'll probably just remove the roof if that happens again, if we get another hurricane. But don't jinx it. We don't need any more. We've had 3 hurricanes in, as many years, so we don't need another one. But yeah, I definitely would get your birds out of the weather. I know a buddy of mine up in Port Charlotte, just north of me, he left all his birds out in his cages. He had his setup outside where he's got hatching time cages and whatnot. And he lost a bunch of birds and ended up going down the road collecting cage parts, because all his cages kind of blew apart. Golden State Quail says, I think I already read that one. Wonderland Timberland says, look, it's the quail brain.
Where?
I guess you. They ain't talking about me.
Not me.
All right. Kurt says 153 eggs in lockdown and hatching currently. First run with a terry baiter. Looks like it did a great job. Cool. Glad to hear it, Kurt. Yeah, I mean, that's not an uncommon comment. I mean, I hear it all the time. Once you get those little DIY incubators dialed in, they work great. All right, one more, and then we're going to do a tumbler giveaway. WRY. I live in Southwest Michigan. How well do quail do outside in the winter?
My quail do great. I haven't had quail outside probably for a year, but my quail did great outside. It's almost like they liked it more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I live in Southwest Michigan too.
All right, present, share screen. We'll go ahead and do another giveaway here. There's the winner of our last drawing. This one is hashtag quail.
Yep.
$26 entries for this one. And the lucky winner is Hannah Bishop. Hannah, you were a winner last week, I believe.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure she was.
She was. All right, Hannah, you know the routine. Send me your shipping info, and we'll get your tumbler in the mail ASAP. All right, let me go back to stop sharing. All right, so far so good. We got 3 winners. The last winner is going to be a giveaway, a 30 count of Gopher Ridge hatching eggs. If you guys want, you can go ahead and start putting your hashtags in for that. It'll be hashtag Gopher Ridge, all one word, and all lowercase. Papa says, I have both vents open. The box says keep them between 35 and 45 this morning. I was at 48. Is this a big problem?
No.
It depends on where you're at. If you're in the first incubation, I would try to get that down a little bit. Like I say, I'm not familiar with that incubator. But if there's different reservoirs in the incubator, just don't put just as much water in there. Remember, the surface area of water is what raises your humidity levels. So if you can put a smaller footprint of water, that's going to help bring it down. But yeah, between 35 and 45 is perfect. 48, is it going to be a big problem? Probably not, because back when I first got into quail, everybody said incubate at 50% and then lock down at 70. And I never had a problem even at 50%, but I prefer to lock down at 35, or I prefer to incubate at 35 and lock down at 60.
I do 45 and 60.
There you go. Butterfly Me Away says, got my babies from HP hatching like popcorn this morning, 5 and counting. Cool. Congratulations. Viking Chick says, question, what type of housing do you recommend for Ohio weather? I've got lots of ideas, but wanted to hear your thoughts. Dog houses, other small houses for inside the aviary. Thanks. Morry?
I just bought a little hutch online. It was like $150. It's just got, it almost looks like a rabbit hutch, maybe, or a cat hutch. I don't know what it is, but the top lifts up, and then
Mockingbird.
I put straw in there in the wintertime. And
that goes inside the aviary?
Yep. And then I got the roof covered with metal so it doesn't get wet and rot. But that works good for me.
Yeah,
even
so
a little dog house.
I would say if she built a little dog house, that'd be fine. Just something to get them out of the weather, the wind and the rain. And like Morry says, he wraps his aviary in plastic. So they're not picky what they live in. Yep. Papa says Northeast Ohio here. Cool. Costello Hobby Farm says nice cup. What happened here? Papa says I'm using the wet hatch method, being that it's my first time ever. Yeah, I mean, what I said by the dry hatch, it's really not a dry hatch. It's more like a
low humidity.
Yeah, it's a low humidity hatch. Most of the time when I'm during incubation, I don't have to use any water in the incubator. The humidity here in Florida is high enough to where I usually have between 35 and 40% humidity inside the box. So I don't really worry about it until I go into lockdown. Melissa says, good morning from Central Coast, California. Glad you could join us, Melissa.
Come the dogs.
There's the puppies. Go. Hi, Jelly. Julie said, it's like Pokemon, got to have all the colors. I hear you. Emma says, I may have missed it, but do your aviary setup change for the summer, winter months? If so, what do you do differently? Mine don't.
Mine do in Michigan. Like in the summer, it's wide open. In the winter, it gets wrapped in painter's plastic.
Mr. Mata says, I want asking, when are your 120 egg incubators going to be available? They're on the website now, I believe. The mini, if you're talking to me, the mini should be on the website now. I can check real quick for you. Yeah, the minis are on the website. They're in stock. The bigger one, the 240s, are out of stock right now. All right. Oops, what did I do? Andy says, with the health issue, how is the dust buildup with the open wire? Do you have to clean the wire? If so, how often?
I don't.
Andy, are you talking indoors or outdoors on the aviary?
Indoors, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Yeah, I don't. On my aviary, other than the floor, you really don't have to do anything other to it. Every once in a while, like every 6 to 8 months, I'll have to replace the tarp. But that once it gets dry rotted from the sun and it starts leaking a lot of water, then I'll swap it out. But other than that, no, there's not a whole lot of work, to keeping in the aviary. They're basically just cleaning the substrate every 6 to 8 months. Lynn says, good morning from Ontario, Canada. Another Canadian in the house. Glad you could join us. Andy Rabbit says, Morry, in the winter, do you ever cover the walls? In the winter, I drop a tarp down on my rabbit cages to block the wind.
Yeah, I cover mine in painter's plastic. Just get a big roll and.
Do you go all the way around it?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Doesn't that kind of make it hard to get in and out?
Well, I don't go over the door.
I was just thinking, how on earth do you get in there? Lynn says, new to Quail, converting a 8x10 dog kennel for outdoor aviary. Getting lots of great tips from you. Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, that's why we did it. For those of you who don't know or haven't seen it, if you go to Coturnix Corner YouTube channel, there are a couple videos on. I actually show one video where we assembled the aviary behind me, and then I did an update video after that. And then I think we did a video on the deep litter method. If you guys are interested in that kind of stuff. Cam says, I need new color zip ties. Nanny says, question, can you use leaves for the mulch in the aviary?
They'll break down pretty fast, but I don't see why not.
Yeah. You guys have leaves all the time up there. So.
Well, in the fall.
Well,
but yeah, I don't. Yeah. They'd probably break down pretty fast, but I don't see why you couldn't.
It would make a good addition to your garden, though, once it did.
Yeah, you'd have some good compost.
Emma says, we've had a lot of alpha APHA alerts here in the UK, so I've had to move my aviary to hutches, and I can't wait for them to be back in there just because of the cleaning. Me and Quail love the deep litter. Yeah, it does help. What is HPA? Is that the bird flu alerts or something? We get them scares every once in a while down here, but to be honest with you, I think they blow that way out of proportion. I mean, when you've got to kill off a flock of birds because one bird showed symptoms, that doesn't sound quite kosher to me. Logan says, questions. Have you ever noticed any issues with the quail transitioning from cages in the winter to the aviary in the summer?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. It kind of, I don't know if it stresses them out, but it's a new area.
They go off lay?
Yeah. They'll go a week or two with not laying, which is fine. But after they get, it's even when you move them inside, it's the same scenario.
Yep.
They just new area. Plus, I got dogs, so my one dog, I got bird dogs, which is a bad idea. But the one dog really likes to harass him.
Mm-hmm. Who's that?
Callie,
the
white one.
All right. Emma says, I've seen the live maggot feeders for chickens using carcasses in a bucket with holes at the top. Could this be used for quail safely? I don't know. I've never done it, so I don't know.
You just got to be careful with the calcium.
I would definitely check on that.
Because I made a mistake with feeding my quail mealworms every day, and I went to hatch them out, and the shells were too strong,
hard,
and they couldn't pip.
Lynn says, would straw be okay to use for the deep litter method?
Yeah, but
that's probably going to take a little longer to.
Yeah, and it's really hard to clean unless
Yeah, when I clean mine, I just flip it. I go in with the pitchfork, I lift it up and flip it over.
Flip it. Yep.
All right, looks like we got a whole bunch of people commenting hatching time. Let me get past that. Andy says, congratulations, Papa. I put my email address up there again, but I can't spell, and I spelled it wrong. So that. Cam says, did you see my pool swimming quail video on the Coturnix Corner app? My extra boy's getting a daily pool side time. I think I did see it, because I was like, I never knew quail could swim. All right, I think we are about at the bottom of our list here. We're into the quail, hashtag quail. Papa says, thank you so much for doing these lives. I'm getting such great information. You're glad too. I'm glad you're getting good information. There's Shoe Family Quail Farm says, Hannah's the winner in all our books. Yeah. I think Hannah's done pretty good as far as the giveaways go. Okay, now we're getting into some Gopher Ridge stuff. Muddy Acres Homestead says we're all winners just by being here. Great info. Cool. Appreciate that. Nanny says in our Connecticut winters, I tack tarps around the chicken pen to allow something. Sexton Outdoors is in the house. Hello, everyone. Andy says she's talking outdoors. Yeah, Andy, I've never had a problem with the wiring holding, dander or any of that kind of stuff. Sexton Outdoors says I will get email before my eggs I won last week ship. I hope everyone sent everything right. Yeah. HP's already got your information, so as soon as he ships, man, your drone flies like crazy.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, he sends tracking numbers out with it, so you will get a notification. Andy Rabbit says, I'm building a quail house now. I have enclosed one side with wood, and the other 3 sides are going to be hardware cloth. I will be putting my cages in the quail house. Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Andy says, I have some cages on my screen porch now, and the screen gets so dusty I have to wash the screen often.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's, smaller openings on the screen. Yeah, it's going to hold the dust. But these, the half by half, I don't see any buildup anywhere on it. Joy says, I have a cubby in a 90 square foot aviary as inspired by your original video. Cool. All right, we are down to the bottom of the list. So we are going to share a screen and do another giveaway. And this is for 30 count of hatching eggs. And Morry can talk on this one here. Let's see, where did it go? Since you live in Southwest Michigan, can I buy Bob White eggs from you?
No. There's a guy on Facebook, Kevin Boyles. That's who I get my eggs from.
And you haven't even hatched them out yet, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, they have hatched out.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're going to do the Gopher Ridge quail giveaway. You got a second to get your hashtag Gopher Ridge in there if you want to.
My birds aren't old enough to lay eggs yet, so
Right.
If I had some, yeah, you can. But other than that, no. They're not old enough. They probably won't lay till next year because they start laying in May and end in August, so their time's a short period.
I got to get this thing plugged in. We are out of power. It's right here, Morry. I got it.
But yeah, stay in contact, and I can hook you up with some Bob Whites.
GOPHERRIGE. Spell that right?
I don't know. I can't see what the
Gopher Ridge.
Yeah.
Okay, collecting comments. Yeah, we got 27 entries. And here we go for the winner on the Gopher Ridge hatching eggs.
Probably be Hannah.
Sexton Outdoors again. That was our winner from last week, wasn't it? Or the week before?
I don't remember.
Sexton Outdoors, you got lucky again. You know the routine. Send me your shipping information, and I will get that forwarded over to HP. Wow, that's a lucky break for you. Are we live? We are live. Okay, cool. All right, so we got all our giveaways done, and we are at the bottom of our list. And wow, I didn't realize we were past the 10 o'clock already.
That's all right.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I know I'm going to be going live next week, Sunday. We'll be announcing the Coturnix Kids Program winner. For those of you who, let me see if I can bring it up real quick. For those of you who have kids that want to get them entered into the Coturnix Kids Program, you can head on over to coturnixcorner.com. And once you signed up there's a link at the top of the page. It's real easy for them to get signed up. But these are the sponsors of the program. Actually, that's kind of an old sponsor list, but Wholesome Harvest donates a bag of feed. Southern Biophiliac and Big Spring Quail supply hatching eggs. Pips and Chicks and Champions Blend supply a gift certificate. Hatching Time sends the kids out a 2-unit layer cage, regular Hatching Time layer cage. And then we've got Bryant's Roost was our sponsor for the incubators, but we have brought on a couple new sponsors. Jennifer's been giving us incubators for a while. So we brought on a couple new sponsors, and I'm trying to find them. If I had them here. And of course, I don't have the new sponsors uploaded already. Anyhow, those sponsors supply an incubator for the kids. So, Costello Hobby Farms says, got my daughter entered. Very cool. Yeah, it's a good program. I mean, the kids, they learn something from it. They're helping out, people without the expectation of being paid or whatever. So it's a good program. Andy Rabbit says this has been a good live this morning. Cool. Glad you could join us, Andy. Really appreciate it. And thanks again for being a judge on the Coturnix Kids program. As far as Tuesday's live, this coming Tuesday, I don't know, Morry, are you up to doing another live?
I don't care. We can figure something out.
Yeah, maybe we'll go live this Tuesday. If we decide on a topic that we can bring to you guys Tuesday, or maybe we can find another guest to come on with us. Get 3 or 4 people in here and we'll just talk quail. But keep an eye on Facebook or coturnixcorner.com, and I'll make sure that I post it over there if we're going to go live. Lynn's brought in one question real quick. Lynn says, question, with an outside aviary, can I safely add new batches of quail into the older established quail without harm? How do you handle that?
Depends how old they are. I try to do equal size. So if I got full grown ones, I'll put in, 4 or 5 week olds. But if you put little ones in there, sometimes they take, sometimes they don't. Mm-hmm. All depends on the bird.
Yeah, I basically do the same thing. I will keep the birds roughly the same size, not necessarily the same age, but the same size. Another thing that I've done before introducing younger birds that weren't quite as big as the birds that were already established, I would put them in a carrying cage. I've got a little all-wire carrying cage. I'd put the birds in that and set that inside the aviary and leave it in there, overnight. And usually by the next day, they're pretty much acclimated to the new birds. And it also helps to have a lot of hide spaces in there to where if the new birds feel threatened, they've got a place that they can hide and, get away from the other birds. So Gene says it got us started with our quail obsession. Yeah. Viking Chick says, how about a live about medical issues and deformities, veterinarian information regarding medical conditions? That's a good idea. The only thing is I would not feel comfortable giving out veterinarian advice.
Nope.
I'm not a vet. And what I do, other people might not agree with. Now, if I could find a vet that's willing to come on the live stream, yeah, that'd make a great live stream. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that, have questions about, how to treat this, how to treat that. So, but as far as me doing it, no, I wouldn't feel comfortable. So
me neither. Because I do my things a lot different than a lot of people do.
Yeah. All right, guys. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you, Morry, for being on the live stream. Look for an announcement as far as the Tuesdays lives
We'll
goes.
try to do it by Monday, maybe, or Tuesday morning. See if we can announce something.
Yeah, we'll have it announced at least a day before the live stream. One more time, real quick. Visit gopherridgequail.com if you want to get in on the Coturnix corner sale. He's got 35 boxes of 27 counts variety mixed hatching eggs for $15.50. You cannot beat that, plus shipping. So
Yeah, I don't know anything about birds with quail with the avian flu.
yeah, I know HP had to do something because avian flu was close by him. I think he just had to renew his NPIP status. He had to come out for an inspection again. I don't think that quail are real susceptible to it, especially for guys that have your birds inside or even outside in the aviary setting, because it's spread, if I'm not mistaken, it's spread through the manure. So the wild birds really can't poop inside your aviary. So that's definitely a good question for somebody with more veterinarian type experience, but I haven't seen any issues with it. And Sexton Outdoors says, great show. Thanks for all the information. All right, guys, we're going to pull the plug on this one because the battery's dead on my laptop. And
we want to go,
we got to go
snoop around.
We're going to go snoop around. So thanks again, guys. Thanks for joining us. Watch for an announcement as far as a Tuesday live stream. If not, we'll definitely see you next week, Sunday, for another morning's meeting.
And I'll see you Tuesday, Andy Rabbit.
There you go. Bye, guys.